Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. We warmly welcome you all to our new and exciting analysis video about our beloved historical series Kurulus Orhan. Dear viewers, just think for a moment. If a rebellion begins inside a state, if the capital falls into danger and enemies start attacking from every direction, how difficult and critical would that situation be for the leader of that state? This is exactly the kind of situation we see in the second trailer of episode 17 of Kurulus Orhan, an attack on Bursa, a growing rebellion within the state, and enemies approaching from every side. This episode does not look like an ordinary one. On the contrary, it seems like this moment will become a turning point where Orhan Bey's leadership and authority will truly be tested, because this time the danger is not only coming from outside the borders. At the same time, a major threat is rising from within the state itself. In today's video, we will analyze the second trailer of episode 17 in detail and focus on several important topics. In this analysis, we will discuss the rebellion openly started by Shahin Bey and his surprising attack on Bursa, the dangerous trap set for Orhan Bey, the mysterious explosion seen in the trailer and its real meaning, the complex situation between Fatma Hatun, Flavius, and the new enemy, Andreas, and why episode 17 may greatly increase the risks and tension in the series. Now, without wasting any time, let's move on to the trailer. Because in this trailer, events develop very quickly, dear viewers. At the center of this story, there is one name, and that person is Shahin Bey. Once he was seen as a loyal Alp and ally of Osman Bey. However, the truth is that he was never truly loyal to Orhan Bey. Shahin Shah always had a desire for power and authority within him, and now it appears that this ambition has turned into an open rebellion. If you remember the previous episode, Orhan Bey had managed to capture many traitors and conspirators hiding within the state, but during that entire operation, Shahin Shah managed to escape, and now the trailer for episode 17 shows us that this escape was not just a simple survival. In fact, it was the beginning of a much bigger plan. Because this time, instead of running away, Shahin Shah chooses to make the first move. In the trailer, we clearly see that while Orhan Bey is away from Bursa, Shahin Shah takes advantage of this opportunity, and he directly attacks Bursa, the capital of the Ottoman state. Dear viewers, this is not just a betrayal. This is actually an open rebellion against the state and an attempted coup. Shahin Shah is not only opposing Orhan Bey, he is also challenging the entire order of the state. There is another important scene that stands out in the trailer, and this scene is the attack on Qasim Bey. It appears that Shahin Shah targets Qasim Bey, and behind this attack there may also be revenge for the earlier attack on Yiğit Bey. However, there is another interesting point here. When we look at historical records and the narrative style of the series, the possibility that Qasim Bey may lose his life in this episode seems quite high. Because in some historical sources related to the period of Orhan Ghazi, Qasim Bey's name does not appear much in later periods. If the series chooses to follow historical elements, episode 17 may show the first major loss of this season. And if such a scene happens, it will certainly give the story a much more emotional and dramatic direction. Now let's talk about Orhan Bey's situation. In the trailer, we see that Orhan Bey is not in Bursa. He has set out on another campaign. And this is where things become even more interesting. Because in the trailer we see a huge explosion near the Karesi region. At first glance, this scene makes it seem like Orhan Bey has fallen into an enemy trap. But if we examine the scene carefully, another possibility appears. Perhaps this event is actually part of Orhan Bey's own plan. In the trailer, we see that Orhan Bey is traveling with only a few soldiers. For a ruler to move with so few soldiers is extremely risky. However, this might be a move designed to mislead the enemy. In the continuation of the scene, we see explosives placed in the ground. Then an arrow is fired, and suddenly a huge explosion occurs. After the explosion, great chaos spreads everywhere. During this chaos, Orhan Bey and his soldiers retreat toward the forest. If this was truly a planned move, its purpose might be to make the enemies believe that Orhan Bey is vulnerable. But at the same time, this situation creates a huge opportunity for Shahin Shah. Because at the very moment Orhan Bey is away from Bursa, Shahin Shah launches his rebellion. Now let's move to another important point in the story, Karakahisa Castle. In the trailer we see that Mehmed Bey manages to capture this castle. However, he does not do it alone. Behind this success lies another secret plan of Shahin Shah. A spy loyal to Shahin Shah first infiltrates the castle, then the gates are opened, and after that a sudden attack begins. Everyone inside the castle is taken captive. Interestingly, this event is actually inspired by a real historical incident. According to historical sources, while Osman Bey was on a campaign, Tatar raiders attacked Karakahisar castle. At that time, the responsibility of the castle was in the hands of Orhan Bey. Later, Orhan Bey successfully drove those attackers out of the castle. The series has adapted this historical event into the story. However, to increase the dramatic impact, some details may have been changed. Now let's come to the most complex and intriguing part of the trailer. Fatma Hatun, Flavius, and the new enemy Andreas. If you remember the previous episode, Andreas appeared right at the moment when Flavius wounded Yiğit. Now it seems that a major conflict will occur between these three characters. Most likely, Fatma Hatun and Flavius will try to fight against Andreas together. However, judging from the scenes, this struggle may not end in their favor. In fact, there is a strong possibility that both of them may be defeated and captured. There is another scene in the trailer that attracts attention, the moment when Daphne shoots an arrow at Fatma Hatun. But if we look carefully, this scene does not appear to be just an attack. Perhaps it is actually a test. Daphne may be trying to understand what Flavius truly feels for Fatma Hatun. And the reaction Flavius gives when the arrow is fired is very striking, because Flavius immediately panics. And this reaction reveals an important truth. Flavius's feelings toward Fatma Hatun may actually be genuine. Dear viewers, when we look at all these developments, one thing becomes very clear. Episode 17 seems ready to take the story of the series to a much more dangerous and critical stage. A rebellion within the state, the struggle for the capital, attacks on the castles, and new enemies rising everywhere. When all of these come together, an extremely exciting and tension-filled episode awaits us. Now we come to the most important questions. Will Orhan Bey be able to return to Bursa in time? Will he succeed in stopping Shahin Shah's rebellion? And the most curious question, will Qasim Bey truly be martyred in episode 17? What do you think about this? Don't forget to share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. That way, you will be the first to know about the latest analyses and updates about Kurulus Orhan. Inshallah, we will see you again very soon with a new video. Goodbye, and may Allah protect you.